me get the mic. Honey, I got something to say. Ooh, I like that. Can you turn that up for me? No, like, it's Maja. But you know, Maj for short. Ask Maj. What's up? It's your girl Maj, and we are back with another episode of Ask Maj, the podcast where I am spilling all the real tea. So, Maj moment of the day. I know that, there's a lot going on in our world. And people feel helpless. I know at times I feel helpless. I really don't know what to say. I don't know what to think. I don't know what to do. There's a million and one things going on. So I just want to encourage you that if things become too overwhelming, just take a step back. Like, take a step back to focus on you. Like, that is the Maj moment of the week. Take a step back and focus on you. I think it's good to stay updated. I think it's good to read about what's going on, but it's also good to take some time for you, to truly take a step back and take some time to get yourself together, to kind of regroup, meditate, pray, read a book, and ease your mind. Like, do something to ease your mind, to kind of get your mind off of what's happening. And I know it takes true discipline, but self-love is the best type of discipline. So yes, I encourage you just to take a step back and focus on you if things become too overwhelming. So I have a bit of mixed emotions here. Obviously, I'm excited to be recording again and talking to all of my listeners, but I'm saddened because we are in a crazy state right now. We've seen the senseless murders of these Black bodies, of our George Floyds, our Ahmaud Arbery's, our Breonna Taylors, and the list goes on, and some of the names we don't even know. And so I'm here today because I want to shed light on these systemic injustices that are happening in America. And right now, as you've seen on social media, the world is in an uproar because of this. And so I brought together some really special people to talk a little bit about what's happening and what we can do to combat this. So I'm so grateful that they're here. I'm so excited to hear what they have to say. So we'll start with some brief introductions. We have Miss Janisha Harris, Mr. Tyleek McMillan, and Miss Amanda Mbata. So thank you guys so much for being here. If you want to start with an introduction of who you are and what it is that you do. Janisha, we'll start with you.
Sure. Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I'm Janisha Harris. I'm a student at Tennessee State University, biology, psychology, double major.
Yeah.
I'm a minor in political science. I am a student. I'm an activist. I'm an organizer, a writer, and I'm a rebel.
Okay. Hello?
Yeah, recently, I've been arrested twice in the past year for my activism here in Tennessee, which is a red state, very conservative state. So a lot of my activism is rooted in that. I'm also a fellow for Ignite National. We do a lot of political engagement with college students. I don't really want to talk about all my accolades, but I'm just
Come on, accolades!
I'm here to share space with some great people. You have some great people here on the panel today. So yeah, I'm just happy here.
Good stuff. Thank you so much for being here. Tyleek, what about you? Tell us about you.
Yeah, so my name is Tyleek McMillan. I'm a recent graduate of the North Carolina A&T State University.
Aggie Pride.
Aggie Pride. As a policy advisor for Reverend Al Sharpton National Action Network. I began working for Reverend Sharpton at the age of 13. So I've been in the movement for a pretty good little minute now. And what I do in DC, I work as an advisor to congressional members and corporate executives to educate them on the opportunities and challenges that face communities of color.
Nice. All right, and Miss Amanda, last but not least.
All right, so my name is Amanda, and I also graduated from North Carolina A&T.
Mm-hmm.
Most recently with my master's in social work. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I'm currently the client services director at a local rape crisis center. My position includes me just trying to make sure that the practices we're doing are equitable to all clients, and really just shaping the way we serve.
Nice, nice. So yes, again, thank you all so much for being here today. I think it's important to have people who are on the front lines and who are fighting for justice, not just when these things happen, but who are proactive and not just reactive. So thank you again for being here. So we're going to jump right into the panel because I want to get as much covered as we possibly can. So this one is for everybody. Did we all see the video? Did everybody see the video?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay. So, Talik, let's start with you. What would you say was your first reaction seeing the video?
Yeah, as I sat and watched the video on social media and about George Floyd, it was heart-wrenching. Again, we saw an innocent Black man get murdered by a system that vowed to serve and protect. Again, we saw a man cry out for his mother, repeating those same words as Eric Garner, saying, "I can't breathe." And it hurt me to my soul to know that another family had to go through the same tragedy again. In particular, I work with Eric Garner's case. We work very closely with the families of these cases. And Gwen Carr, the mother of Eric Garner, who was almost like a grandmother to me, she adopted me a while back. And to see her and her family have to relive the pain of losing her son, saying those same exact words that I can't breathe was very, very heart-wrenching. So, I mean, it's very tough hearing these cases, and definitely like working with the families is definitely tough.
Janisha, what about you?
When I try my best not to see the video because I do not want to be reminded of Black trauma and death. But when it's on social media so much, you just tend to press play sometimes. And so that's, what kind of happened with me. When I saw George, I saw Philando, I saw Eric, I saw Trayvon, I saw Sandra, I saw all of these Black people who have been murdered by the police. And it kind of came in like a flashback almost. So yeah, just really, really sad. Yeah. I can't even begin to explain the feeling.
Good stuff. Amanda?
Yeah, I saw it. My day started off really good. I was sitting on the couch about to get ready to have my first meeting, scrolling on Facebook. And of course, again, that's the first thing that comes to your mind. And as I was watching it, I just began to cry. But I don't even think it was me seeing him. I think it was what he was saying and what the bystanders were saying that really got to me. The rest of the day was really shot.
Understandable. I think that can be pretty consistent. If you ask anybody what was their reaction to the video. And for me, it was one of those things where it didn't hit me right then and there. It kind of hit me later. And Janisha, what you said kind of stuck with me. You said, you saw Philando. Talik, you said you saw Eric. You saw Trayvon. And for me, I saw my brothers. You know what I mean? I have a Black dad. I have 3 Black brothers. And to see him lying there screaming, "I can't breathe," I saw my brother's face. And that was, emotional for me. And that in itself, can incite anger and emotion and sadness. So no, I totally agree. Amanda, I'm not sure if you saw this on social media, but there was this post going around that said Will Smith said that racism isn't getting worse, it's getting filmed. And so now that we've seen this video and several other videos, do you agree with this? And if so, why or why not?
I absolutely do agree. Most of the racism that people are speaking of is what we're seeing, which is the videos of police brutality and things like that. But what we're not seeing that's getting filmed is what's going on in the educational system, what's been going on in the educational system, what's been going on in the judicial system, what's been going on in the healthcare system. So it's not getting worse. It's always been here. We're only seeing one part of it.
Right. So, and I also know that, that's why I started off by asking you all, if everybody watched the video. And Amanda, this question is for you as well. There are a lot of people on social media who are like, I refuse to watch the video. And then there are some people like, watch it. So would you say that, we've become desensitized to this, or, it's almost like we see this so much that it's not even a thing. Like we've all almost become immune. What do you think about that?
To what you said about some are avoiding watching it, we're not desensitized, we're traumatized. And that avoidance is a really big part of post-traumatic stress disorder. When you think about people who have experienced traumatic events, you do everything in your power to avoid that event, to avoid any reminders of that event. So that's what some people are doing. And death is sacred, but we are watching Black lives die in front of us. And this is a weekly basis.
Oof. That's good. Janisha, so we've seen a lot of talk about, especially with Black women, that the Black women who have lost their lives to police brutality, we don't speak of them as much. Would you say that they are getting the attention they deserve? And why or why not?
Not. I think Black women, we are double minorities. We're Black and we're women. And we are too often forgotten. There are people like Breonna Taylor, Sandra Bland, and Pamela Turner, and all these other women who are not to say that this is a competition as to who should have more press, right, more recognition than the other. Black lives are still being killed, period, point blank. But I do believe that Black women are underserved, especially when it comes to the recognition of their stories and their deaths. So, yeah.
Interesting. Tyleek, so when we speak about, Black men and Black women, you're a Black man in America, right? And you consider yourself a political activist. But you're also targeted no matter what your career is, right? No matter where you went to school, you're targeted because you are simply a Black man. So how has knowing this impacted your upbringing and how you choose to live your life today?
Yeah, I think as a Black man in this country, it has always been a thought, in the back of my head that I could face that very same fate as any one of these other Black men. And a lot of folks know me as well as like a well-accomplished young man who has been at the table with some of the world's most influential leaders and being able to advise world leaders and corporate executives on real issues. But the harsh reality is, regardless of any accomplishment or accolade that I may have on my name, I'm still just a Black guy to a stranger on the streets. And I think that is what has to be that's in my head, and recognizing that when I go out, I still carry the great mantle of being Black,
right?
The honor of being Black. But I still have to understand that there's still deep built racism within this country. That when I step outside of my door, I got to step out with a different mindset and a different attitude.
Interesting. So Amanda, back to your point. You mentioned that it's not that, seeing this has desensitized us, but more of traumatized us. So to kind of continue on that point, how would you say our mental state has been impacted by what it is that we see, whether it be in the media, whether it be on social media, or, a video that has resurfaced of a young man being killed? How does this impact our mental state?
Yeah. So whatever we experience in life becomes a part of our psyche. So consistently viewing these videos, consistently being exposed to the disparities within the educational system, because this is bigger than just police brutality. And I have to continue to make this point, which makes it that much more overwhelming for Black people who are experiencing this, because we can't just focus on, let me see what I can do about police brutality while all these other issues are going on. So we're experiencing this racial trauma. We're experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder. The people who are on the front lines daily are experiencing depression. We're not really talking about how, I believe his name was Marshawn McCarroll, he killed himself. And he was at the head of a lot of these protests, and he was at the head of a lot of this work, and he killed himself on at a national building. After he experienced so much daily trauma from being a Black man, so much he was putting into his mental about the disparities and about the oppression that he was experiencing and that he's watching others experience. And it became hard for him to express. And no one's really talking about that. There's anxiety about where can I go? What can I do? there's post-traumatic stress disorder, racing thoughts, insomnia, so many things going on right now. And we're kind of making it a little worse on ourselves by continuing to feed ourselves with these things. We kind of need to take a moment and disconnect from it.
Interesting. Very interesting. So Janisha, what does it mean for you to be a political activist, especially during these times? And in the beginning, I spoke about, I love this group, right? Because I see that you guys are proactive. It's not just, when things like this happen, now we're on the front lines. You guys have been on the front lines. So in spite of what's going on, what does it mean to be a political activist? What does it mean to be proactive so that we can try to do everything we can to prevent these situations or to bring about change to our people?
I think revolution comes about when you are proactive instead of reactive. I think for me, I made a post today that I got a lot of pushback for. And I basically said that people are now starting to realize what I've been preaching about on social media for years now. And so many people have come to me like, wow, you were right. So definitely it makes me so happy that people are now being awakened to the evils of this system. Mm-hmm. But it's also, I'm sorry, guys, I had a call. But it's also it makes me sad also that, people are just now getting this information because, we could have been doing the work together. So I think being an activist, I don't really like the term political activist because I try to stay away from all things politics.
Right.
But I think for me, being an activist is an unpaid job that I clock into literally every day. It's very dangerous. It's very risky. I talked about earlier being arrested for my activism here in Tennessee. More recently, my activism around the bust of Nathan Bedford Forrest, who was a first Grand Wizard of the KKK. And, we have statues of him in Tennessee all around in the state capitals, in parks, in museums. And that came with a lot of hate and actual death threats from the KKK themselves. So it's very hard. And I want to uplift a name that, what's her name? I'm sorry, Sister Amanda just spoke about Marshawn McCarroll, who was 23 years old when he committed suicide. And his last tweet was, "My demons won." I'm sorry.
Oof.
That was his last post. And I've suffered depression as well, being an activist. I often think about, what if Assata had a therapist, or what if Malcolm had a therapist? How would their activism be different? And so I make it my business to, go to therapy weekly, even virtually now. And it's helped so much because the life of an activist is so dangerous. It's risky. It's a lot. It's overwhelming. But it's honestly worth it. And I would not want another quote unquote title. I feel like being an activist is my due diligence as a human being. It's the rent that I pay for living on this earth.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
That's a very interesting perspective. So Sally, Janisha talked about, being a political activist is dangerous, right? It's risky. And so we've seen this kind of war, this battle on social media about whether people should be angrily, looting and protesting versus whether people should be peacefully protesting. What is your stance on this?
Yeah, I think it's empowering first to stand with your people in solidarity because, as Assata Shakur said, we have nothing to lose but our chains.
Come on.
And it's our duty to fight for our freedom, and it's our duty to win. So it's powerful to see a collective group of people demand, not ask, but demand their voices be heard. And I think folks in government and those in high places need to recognize that it's not a question, it's not a request, but it's a demand that people seek justice for the countless Black and brown bodies that were disposable to a system that was said to protect and serve. And so as folks are in this fight for justice, we understand the importance of what our movement is about, and it's for the liberation of Black people. And we also understand that there are plenty movements inside of movements, as you see around this country right now in this moment. Thousands of people who are peacefully protesting, like my organization, National Action Network, and we're talking about policy changes as it pertains to police chokeholds, accountability, etc. the same. And as we say from the streets, and we say like from the streets to the suites, but then there are folks who channel and express their anger differently. But for sure, people are hurt. People have anger. People have frustrations. And folks say it was supposed to be a protest, not a robbery. But as Mama Sabrina Fulton said, the mother of Trayvon Martin, it was supposed to be an arrest, not a murder. And so folks furious. And please don't get it confused. The protesters are protesting and the looters are looting. So let us not allow the occupant at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue to distract us away from the real reason why folks are upsetting on the streets. I mean, from the real reason that folks need the resources to protest and to organize, that police are throwing away waters and resources from protesters. So I don't want folks to get distracted by the real reason that folks are on the streets. It's not about the looting. I mean, it's not about, and as our sister Tamika Mallory said, America taught us to be looters. America were the original looters when they came and stole this land from the Native Americans. They taught us how to loot, and so we don't want that force of what this movement is about to be focused only on that.
Ooh, child, President McMillan 2020, honey, put him in the race. Yes. Amanda, what is your stance on this? You know, like he said, we talked a lot about, you know, there being this debate between, you know, peacefully protesting and then there's violence and looting. What is your stance on this, especially coming from kind of a mental health background?
Yeah. When you've tried everything, when you've held everything in, when you've gone on continuously and you have not been heard, nothing has changed. These are things that have been passed on generation to generation to generation. This is generational trauma. So when you see people in the streets rioting, when you see people in the streets protesting, this is hurt that they're feeling. This is pain. It's not a show. And honestly, I saw something that said, this is the cry of the unheard. And when you think about it, when white males shoot up a school, they have a mental illness. But when we are out in the streets protesting for equity, protesting to stop the oppression, protesting to be heard about what's really going on and to get our voices heard, we are met with your looters. You're robbing us. You're destroying your neighborhood. You're a thug. But a white man can go into a school and shoot it up and he has a mental illness. This is mental illness. This is I'm hurting. This is the last straw. Somebody help me. And just imagine the children who are being exposed to this. There are children out there on the front lines as well with their parents. And their minds are being exposed to this. They're learning the world is not a safe place. I don't have anywhere to be. I don't have anywhere to go. The police is not safe. And this is all going to play out in how they behave because our thoughts impact our behaviors.
We've seen a lot of pushback when it comes to Black businesses, right? And so we've seen a lot of people post, you know, don't destroy our Black businesses. So would you say that you believe that the Black businesses are kind of just a casualty of war? Like they may or they may not get you know, burnt down, or should we stand against our Black businesses being destroyed? What is your stance on that?
As much as we can, I believe that we should protect Black businesses. But I do believe that there will be casualties. I do believe there will be bloodshed. I do believe that things will be literally brought to the ground. And that is why I don't believe that we are actually ready for what we are asking for.
That's a good point. Talik, what about you?
I missed it. I'm sorry. One more time.
No, you're fine. Would you say that Black businesses are exempt? You know, we've seen a lot of pushback about Black businesses, and protect our Black businesses. Would you say that these are casualties of war and it might just happen, or should we really take a stand for protecting Black businesses?
Yeah, I think we should also recognize what we're out there fighting for. We're fighting on behalf of the lives of Black and brown people. We're fighting for not only police reform, but we're fighting for equity. And we're fighting for, when we look at just this past stimulus bill that was passed here in Congress, there was no money that was even allocated as much to small businesses and Black and minority-owned businesses. So when we see the system that is failing our community, such as a time as this is a moment that we should stand for our community already when resources are not even going to our communities. So we need to protect our communities. And I feel like it's our duty to ensure that our excellence is not destroyed because it's already has been a limit that the system has already put on our excellence to even be of value.
Good stuff. Janisha, so you were actually on the front lines. I mean, you had the mic, for lack of better words. You had the bullhorn, and all eyes were on you. How was that for you?
It was, I mean, that's like, I was telling my friend who, that was her first protest on Saturday, and she was like, how do you do this every day? And that's literally what I do every day. I go and I speak truth. It was about 6,000 people out there. And I always say that, you know, the nerves and the nervousness go away when truth has to be spoken. And so everything goes out the window when it's time to speak. So it was a great turnout. I did not expect the turnout to be that, you know, profound. I was one of the organizers for that protest. We were not expecting that many people to come, but people came and showed out. So yeah, I'm glad that people are now starting to hear the voices of young people and not pushing us to the side. I often get met with, you know, you're too young, you don't have the expertise, you're 23, go sit down. And so it's such a good feeling to have people to hear my voice when I've been doing this for so long, for like 5 years.
Interesting.
So yeah.
Interesting. So, and during your speech, you said, you know, I don't want to hear that all lives matter, you know, because, you know, your lives, your houses. Oh, honey, I listened. I sure did. You know, your lives, your houses are not the ones being burnt down. Can you talk about that a little bit?
You know, I did not have a speech prepared Saturday. I did not. I only said that first line. I said that I do not want to hear that all lives matter when all lives are not being killed. And I said that because Senator Gilmore here in Tennessee, she got to the mic and said that all lives matter. And the entire crowd booed her. And she kept saying all lives matter, all lives matter. And I was really frustrated. And so instead of calling her out, I just, you know, I looked to her, I looked to the crowd, and I just said, you know, what I said at the beginning of the speech. And I think the All Lives Matter quote bothers me so much because it's a deflection. And it removes the responsibility off of the people who are killing us to make us say Black Lives Matter. We're not just saying that Black Lives Matter for no reason. Obviously, and especially if you believe in a higher power, God created us all to be equal. Unfortunately, here on earth, that is not the case. But all lives matter is, you know, it's inevitable. It's a fact. All lives do matter. But right now, we're talking about the Black ones. So I have to recenter things. And after she said that, I had to, you know, get the crowd back hopeful, because I could feel the energy. I could feel the shift in the crowd. I could feel the hope being swayed away because someone that we elected, someone that we put into office is telling us at a Black Lives Matter rally that all lives matter. And so that was completely unacceptable to me. And so I just had to speak my truth in that moment.
Nice. That's nice. And I think a lot of people will agree with you on that. Tyleek, you also went to a protest in DC, and as we've seen on the news, things have been getting crazy. So tell me about your experience protesting.
Yeah, like said, it's crazy. I mean, you step out there, you step out at a risk, and that's the risk that you take. it's empowering. It's empowering to stand in solidarity with folks, and it's empowering for folks to express themselves to their elected officials. And the thing about organizing is, like I said, you have different folks who are out there. Everybody may not be on the same wave that you're on in organizing. But the great thing about it is it's a bunch of Black people who are all there fighting for the liberation of all Black people, so that we may have the best life possible, our best life, the same way everybody else in this country does.
Interesting. So let's shift gears just a bit, right? We all went to HBCUs. Woo woo. So shout out to the HBCUs. Yes, TSU, AccuPride. I actually know Janisha because she was Miss Sophomore when I was Miss A&T, and I'm very close with her queen. That was Miss TSU at the time. So we've all went to HBCUs, and I think we can all kind of acknowledge the impact that they had on our journeys thus far. So Amanda, starting with you, what would you say, or what role would you say HBCUs play, especially during times like this?
I think the role of our HBCUs are to encourage us to pull from what we were founded on, to pull from the people who came before us and stood up and protested and fought for justice. I think it's also important for our HBCUs to give us strategy. Because a lot of people are leading. We have a lot of leaders. We don't have a lot of direction. So people are going off and doing different things. We're not together right now. So I think the role of the HBCU is to help us to be united, help us to follow one strategic plan, and just continue to encourage us and not cut our voices off.
Interesting. Janisha, what about you? What would you say the role is for HBCUs during this time?
I would echo a lot of what Amanda said. Back in the 60s, you could pinpoint a leader, like that. You had Malcolm, you had Dr. King, you had so many different people. But now we have leaders, but nobody knows who to follow. And so when people ask me, who do we follow? I think we can follow HBCU. We should follow, the Black church, people that have Black establishments that have resources and capital and, recognition. So I definitely think that the role of HBCUs in this fight is to unite us, to bring us together so that we can follow one concise Black agenda, if you will. And also because they're historically Black colleges, universities, and they educate a lot of the Black bodies who are being killed. So I think that's the role.
Nice. Tyleek, what about you? Tell us about the role HBCUs should play during this time.
Yeah, I think HBCUs play a very critical role of the minds of young Black people. HBCUs, I feel like, are the universities that make space for this type of shaping of activism. There's a curriculum that is focused on shaping the minds of young Black folks to step out into a world that says that you are less than. And what I love about, North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University, it's a university where it teaches you not what to think, but how to think. And I think that's very critical in how folks step out into this world where you're not even accepted.
Interesting. Tyleek, you also mentioned during your introduction that, you work alongside Al Sharpton, right? So how would you say your job, your career, your professional obligation has allowed you to use your voice on a personal level and a professional level to kind of combat police brutality? Like, how do you use your seat at the table? Right. A lot of times I'm even into this day, I'm very, very amazed and I'm very grateful for the mantle that God has placed in my life to actually, only at 23 years old, to be able to sit at tables with senators and congressional members, political candidates. I had the opportunity to advise every single presidential candidate on the Democratic side. And so the mantle is heavy. But I find it a pleasure because I'm not only advocating for my brothers and my sisters in my community, but I am advocating for a generation to yet be born.
And that's how I look at it. The way that I feel is in the words of Elijah Cummings, that like when I'm dancing with the angels, I wanna feel like that there's a generation that's coming after me that won't have to endure the things that generations before me in my generation had to face. And I feel like being able to sit at the table, I'm able to see the issues. I'm able to be on the front line and hear the concerns of my people. And I'm able to sit at the table, not only not thinking as Tyleek, but I'm able to think as my brother and sister to my left and my right. And so that's what I find most rewarding.
Interesting. That's good stuff. Talik, you also, I know that with your job, with your career, I'm sure you work closely with the media. So with everything going on, would you say that the media has made the situation better or worse?
Yeah. And so, like I said, I work for Reverend Sharpton. He also has a TV and radio show on MSNBC. And so a good thing about, able to have anchors who are in this fight and in this movement, being able to have their own show and make sure to shed the light, is we have folks who actually share the real stories and the real struggles faced in our communities. And I think for like when we look at the media, all we see is the protests, all we see the looting, all we see is the fires. But I do think the media has a responsibility to show the voices of the people who are in the streets. Yes, it's good, for folks around the world to see what's happening here in America, but it's also good to have those Black and brown faces in the camera saying why they're upset, saying why they're out in the streets. So it is their duty to share that message.
Good stuff. Amanda, I was extremely grateful to have you as a speaker today, because I think it's important that we talk about the mental health perspective, because sometimes we don't shed enough light on the mental health, especially when it comes to Black people. So as a Black social worker, what is it that you all are doing, and you personally too, to have a positive impact on people who are dealing with what's going on? Because let's be real, like you said, people are hurting. I'm hurting. Child, I was on a team meeting today, and they kind of gave us a space to talk, and I started talking, I got choked up, and I just immediately put the computer on mute because, like I said, I saw my brother laying there. You know what I mean? I saw my brother my brother's face on George Floyd's body. So how are Black social workers, how is that space kind of creating a positive impact for people who are hurting and who feel helpless and don't know what to do or where to go?
Yeah. So me being an advocate and being someone who is in the helping field, I'm always trying to figure out, how can I help? How can I fix? What can I do? So I think it's important that Black social workers, Black therapists, Black people in the helping field, period, take a moment and really try to process what they're feeling and take a moment, step back and, take care of yourself. But even in that, I've been holding a safe space virtually for Black men and Black